This was the offensive line that was out there for the Jets yesterday. Billy Turner at left tackle. He's a backup. Left guard was Joe Tippmann. He's a rookie. At center was McGovern. He's their starter. Right guard, Schweitzer. It's a backup to Lincoln Tomlinson in AVT. And then right tackle, Max Mitchell. So 2 backups and a rookie. Of course they're going to get beat up by a good defensive line. Everyone's saying, oh my gosh, we have to understand that Mekhi Becton is going to be their starting left tackle. I saw Connor Hughes tweet out, he's seen enough. Mekhi Becton is one of their best 5. He's going to be the starting left tackle. He's got to prove he can stay healthy. There's no questions asked. AVT's an all-pro at left guard. McGovern's a good center, and it's probably going to be him or Tippmann. Right tackle is going to be Laken Tomlinson. Right guard's going to be Max Mitchell or Dwayne Brown. The 5 that are going to be on September 11th against the Buffalo Bills on opening Monday Night Football, that is not the 5 that was on the field yesterday. I'm not sugarcoating the Jets' offensive line. I understand there's questions, and they got to play together. I'll continue to say this. If the 5 that are out there is what should be out there, that's a talented offensive line.
Okay, fair enough. You know who I'm not convinced agrees with you? Aaron Rodgers. And I bring you the following evidence. I take you to Rodgers' Instagram story of yesterday, okay? Now, he posts this. There he is with Garrett Wilson. Always love my 17s. He tags Garrett Wilson. He tags Devontae Adams. But upon closer inspection, if you touch Aaron's rear end on the picture,
oh my gosh,
you discover that he has tagged surreptitiously David Bakhtiari. No, I'm not granting that timeout. I know what you're going to ask, and I'm not responding to it. The point of it is this. Yes, I touched his behind, and I found the tag of David Bakhtiari. So this is sneaky Aaron, or should we say cheeky Aaron, as he is surreptitiously tagging David Bakhtiari. Harry, is Aaron Rodgers
surreptitiously?
Trust me, in this case it applies. Is he sort of privately telling the world, or telling the Jets, or telling Bakhtiari himself, we need my guy here in New York protecting my backside?
100%. And I think we all know Aaron at this point right now that he is not going to send a message like that without a real meaning into it.
Sure.
Right? You talk about, the continuity with the offensive line and what they don't have right now. He's close with David Bakhtiari. That's one of his closest friends. Those 2 guys have chugged beers together. They've done a lot of things. They've hung out outside of football. I believe I may have seen them at the Kentucky Derby together when I just went this year as well. So
this is Bakhtiari chugging at a basketball game. This is who I want on my offensive line, Dan. Not just one, but give me another one.
I can't drink water that fast.
That's what I'm saying. Like he
just drank 2 beers in 4.5 seconds. That's the man I want. And then Rodgers, whatever. He's got everything
but
right.
It's the trust factor, though, Greeny.
Yeah.
David Bakhtiari is a guy that Aaron Rodgers trusts.
He's also very good.
Really, really good. That's why he trusts him.
So, Danny.
This is protect my backside.
Yes.
I do not think that this has no meaning to it. I think this matters. I would say this. The Jets, if they can realistically do this, should absolutely get it done.
How?
And then I think, they got to call Green Bay. I don't know if Green Bay is going to do it. I don't know how they feel about sending Bakhtiari to the Jets as well. But if the Jets can do it, I would sit there and tell you it's Bakhtiari, AVT, McGovern, Laken Tomlinson, and then probably
Becton on the right side.
Becton on the right side. That is one of the better 3 or 4 offensive lines in the conference and completely takes away any of their concerns.
We've solved the problem. Always look to Aaron Rodgers' butt. He's got all the answers. Do we make this happen right now?
You better make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
Because I don't think, when you look at the first 2 opponents, they play the Buffalo Bills. You got Von Miller coming in this house.
Yes.
In your house with his hair screaming on fire, with something to prove because he missed the back half of the year.
Yeah.
The next week, you know who you have? A guy named Michael Parsons.
Right.
Who is a dog.
Yes.
Whether it's a Tommy dog, Doggy Dog, Mighty Dog, Snoop Dogg. I don't give a damn what kind of dog it is. The man is a dog, and you better protect number 8 or it's going to get ugly.
Look at all the sacks in their first 6 games. They played 4 teams who were in the top 3 in sacks last year, and that doesn't even include the team that has Von Miller on it. Danny, we have to make this happen right now.
I think if they can make it happen, they have to, yes. I also will say this. If it doesn't happen, I still have faith that their 5 best are good enough.
It's just all about getting that time together.
Yeah, they got to play together, and that's fair. That's fair.
It's all about Aaron Rodgers' rear end. At the end of the day,
can't believe you publicly.
That's where you get all the messages. What, if any, questions do we have about Jalen Hurts? What are we looking at when it comes to Hurts and the Eagles?
I don't have any questions about Jalen.
No question.
I made that mistake before. I'm not going to question the man ever again.
Zero.
I have nothing about Jalen Hurts, question-wise. I've made that mistake. Now, if we're talking about the Eagles as a football team, I do think, and this is a little bit of a nitpicking, but they're banking on, and we're a little bit assuming as fans, that 4 kids that were drafted from the same school are going to become really good players.
Right.
Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, and Nolan Smith. I don't remember a time that's ever happened in the NFL where 4 guys that were drafted basically off the same team are going to be very much so dependent on impactful plays and performances very early on in their career. I remember like the Raiders years ago drafted a bunch of guys out of Clemson. I don't know outside of the receiver that all of them or any of them panned out. So that's the biggest question I have about the Eagles. Is all 4 of those guys are going to become really good players?
Yeah, all 4 of them, to be clear, were on that Georgia defense that has won back-to-back national championships. Some of them were not there for the second one, but it's one of the great, the first one's one of the great defenses of all time.
Totally.
So they're counting on young players, and maybe Hurts,
But
there'll
young
be
players
more
from the same
pressure on him.
team.
I get it. So what you're saying is maybe there's more pressure on Hurts in the offense this year because last year their defense was so incredibly good.
Well, I still think the defense is really talented. The pressure on their offense is never going to be felt. That offensive line and the weapons on the outside are too good. They will always be applying pressure.
Any questions for you when it comes to Philly and Hurts?
No, I think the only thing when it comes to Jalen Hurts is now I expect him to do what I've seen Patrick Mahomes do. Also Joe Burrow. When things go wrong, you make it right. That's the way you're compensated now. That's the way he's being viewed in Philadelphia. When it's 3rd and long, Jalen Hurts is a guy that can get them back to manageable situations. But let's just say you have a football game where things aren't going wrong defensively, things aren't going wrong offensively. At some point, Jalen Hurts is the juggernaut. He's the piece that's going to make it right. So more consistent in making things right when things go wrong.
I guess the question that may linger for people is, can he play to the level that he did in the Super Bowl week in and week out?
Right.
I mean, he was the best player on the field, arguably.
Yep.
So I don't know how often in Philadelphia things are going to go wrong. The roster is probably the best roster in the NFL. So I just have I've made the mistake of doubting the young man. I'm not going to do it again.
And I'll say, we got a taste of it last year, though. I had a chance on ESPN Radio to call the Eagles and Colts game. Things didn't go right in that ball game.
And he carried him.
And Jalen Hurts carried him. But can he do it on a consistent basis if things like that happen on a consistent? I don't think it will, but if it happens to do, can he be that guy? A lot of people are trying to figure out if Deshaun Watson is going to get back to 2020. They got to understand, he was the #1 passer in 2020. He completed 70% of his passes, 33 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, 440-plus yards rushing. I think that's entirely too much. If we're asking Deshaun to get back to that guy right now, I think if we can get 75% of that, Cleveland, I think right now would be okay with that.
Oh, my goodness.
What?
No. He should absolutely get back to that Houston.
He's better, right?
$230 million.
That's the point.
Well,
100%.
I understand
No.
They gave
First
him
of
a
all,
contract that completely turned the entire NFL upside
and the Browns
down.
are good.
Yeah.
The Browns have a good roster.
He should be that good again?
Heck yeah. The roster that he has in Cleveland is significantly better than the roster, maybe outside of DeAndre Hopkins, but Amari Cooper is no slouch. It is a significantly better overall roster than he had in Houston. I think he should be playing as well. I think he should get reps tonight. There's no question asked. This is what I want to see out of Deshaun. Are you back to being the bouncy, twitchy, sudden athlete that we saw in Houston? Because that was not the case last year in the small body of work. How is his feel for football back? You know, the sense of timing and rhythm and seeing windows open and close. I want to see that. And that's why I think he should be playing in the preseason. I want to see how their offense is going to be a little bit different because I think their offense should change a little bit under Kevin Stefanski. I think it should be a little bit more open, spread out, allowing his talent to be on display.
I just think it's tough to ask Deshaun Watson to be the 2020 quarterback this year.
Well, he better be.
This year.
If
But
he's
when,
not-
if we're talking-
hold on, when can we ask him to be that?
I'm saying he only played 6 games last year, and those 6 games didn't look good. He was off in football for what, a year and a half?
So when can we ask a $230 million quarterback to
They're not paying him to be good next year. I mean,
listen to what I'm saying. I'm not saying Deshaun Watson isn't going to be good and take the steps. I'm saying 2020, he was the #1 passer in the National Football League.
Right.
33 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, completed 70% of his passes.
right.
You're telling me we're going to get that from Deshaun Watson in
I'm telling you,
2023?
if you
telling you
don't, then
it's fair to expect it.
Yeah, then what are they paying for?
With an offense that's got a top 3 offensive line, a great offensive play caller, weapons galore on the outside, and a defense that's crazy talented, I don't think it's unfair to sit there and say, well, he should be as good as that. Those
Give me 75% of what that was in 2020.
And that's very good.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Is this Patriots team, with the addition of Zeke and the other pieces, particularly maybe the offensive coordinator, the world has written them off, Harry. Have you?
Yeah, I have too. I'm not going to say they're not going to be a decent football team because, out of respect for Bill Belichick and that defense, that was the top 8 defense last year, and the way they sacked the quarterback was amazing. But when I look at this team and I look at the lack of speed from an offensive standpoint, also when you look at that division and then the AFC conference as a whole, I don't believe their quarterback, Mac Jones, can go toe-to-toe with any of the elites.
What do you think, Dan?
If they get to the playoffs, it's because they play a style of football that only they play, outside of the Tennessee Titans.
Yep.
That's the only one. So they got to win big and they got to win ugly. The reality is their margin of error is just so much less than other teams. Fundamentally, it's going to play great defense. We'll see how good Christian Gonzalez is at corner. They drafted out of Oregon in the first round. To Harry's point, a very good defense last year. So great defense. I think they're going to commit to playing 12 personnel on offense. 1 back, 2 tight ends. So how good Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki are is going to be a big part of this. So run the football, and then Mac Jones being matchup-based, situationally very efficient. Now, this is where I might disagree with you on that. I think he's really good at that stuff. I think Bill O'Brien will get him into game plans and in those moments where it's 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 consistently, and we got to find, is it going to be a Juju game? Is it going to be a Mike Gesicki game? Is it going to be a Devontae Parker game where situationally, I don't need Mac Jones to throw for 350 yards, and I don't know if that's him, but I need him to be very efficient on those 3rd down situations, and I do think he can excel at that stuff.
He's much too good to be as bad as he was a year ago. He may not be great, but what do we always say about him? His ceiling may not be that high, but the floor can't be that low. That was a coaching situation.
I do agree with Harry.
He's going to be better.
I don't think they're a playoff team. I don't think they're a playoff team.
And I do worry, though, that if they get down 14-0 in a ball game, I don't think they can come back and win that game.
No, I'm with you, but with that defense, and hopefully they don't get down 14-0 too much. But let's find out what we think. Caesars has Buffalo as the favorite to win the AFC East for the 4th straight season at plus 125. You see they have the Jets in there, slotted in next, the Dolphins after that, and then New England at the bottom. So I've asked the guys to put together their AFC East standings. Danny, it's Harry first. I'm sorry, Harry, show me your AFC East order. What will it be 1 through 4?
Yeah, so I have the Jets number 1 winning the division this season. I have the Bills at number 2. Then I have the Miami Dolphins, and then I have the New England Patriots. And the reason why I put the Jets at number 1, when I look at certain things like last year when they played the Buffalo Bills, they won that game with Zach Wilson, but it was that defense being dominant, sacking the quarterback 5 times, creating 2 turnovers. That zone coverage that they played gave Josh Allen a lot of trouble. Also, in the second matchup that these two teams played, the Jets had the ball down 20-12 with an opportunity to go down and try to tie that game up and sit it in overtime. So in 2 games, that defense had 8 sacks, and they forced Josh Allen to not look like himself.
Yeah, they might have won that second game if Mike White hadn't gotten literally broken in half in the middle of it. All right, so Harry has that foursome in that order. Danny, how about you in the AFC East?
I just flip 1 and 2. I keep Buffalo at 1. I put the Jets at 2, Miami at 3, and New England at 4. I have said this for about 2 months now. I don't understand the narrative around Buffalo nationally. This is a football team that last year played without their starting safeties, who arguably are the best duo in football. Von Miller gets hurt, and they've added Dalton Kincaid. So Tre'Davious White, second year off the ACL injury at corner, is going to be tremendous. Elam, their first-round pick at corner, is going to be in his second year out of Florida. So a much better player. The safeties are back. They got to replace in the middle Edmonds. That's totally fair. But Von Miller, healthy. I don't know how early he plays. I just think Buffalo's getting slept on. I think Dalton Kincaid is going to be incredibly impactful for their football team. And I think this is going to be Josh Allen's cleanest year as a quarterback.
All right, we will see. As far as my picks are concerned, of course I have the Jets in at number 1. And then the rest of it, I just couldn't care less. So, I mean, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Makes no difference to me in what order the rest of them finish, so long as the Jets wind up at number 1.
3 years ago, draft season, when he was coming out of Utah State, doing the touchscreen a couple of times and just saying, there's a physical talent that is there. There is a real arm talent, being able to make all these different proper throws from different situations and arm angles. I've said this. I think if Jordan Love is average, this is a playoff football team. It's not as good a situation as Jalen Hurts had in Philadelphia last year, but it's not that far off. You're going to have a top 5, top 7 offensive line, and they got tons of talent on the outside. It was interesting. Kurt Benkert, who was backup quarterback in the NFL for a couple years, and I believe was there with Green Bay, said something yesterday, I believe, when he was like, I'm excited to watch Jordan Love put his own spin on stuff. Like, he's going to play in the rhythm of the offense, but there's a talent there that he's excited to see put his own spin on some of their plays that I think we don't know necessarily anything about. I'll say this. Matt LaFleur and I texted about Jordan the other day, and his words were, you would love him. He's going to be great.
Yeah. I'll remind folks who don't know me. You played under Matt LaFleur, so you know him well and have had that relationship and have a sense of it. So the question on the screen is a tough one, Harry. Will he restore the Packers' NFC North dominance? And that's one of the problems the kid faces. He's following in the footsteps not just of Aaron Rodgers, but also of Brett Favre. He's following 30 years of first-ballot Hall of Fame quarterback play. So immediately, anything short of what we're looking at on the screen there will feel like a disappointment to some. That's unfair. I think he's going to be a really good player. Let's see how far he can take it.
Yeah, I think he is. Some of the things that Dan's seen on film, I've seen some of the same things too. Listen, he has the intangibles. But I don't think we can just put this all on Jordan Love. Does he have to play well? Yes. But the supporting cast, the offensive line must remain healthy. Those running backs must run the football. The defense that we expect to be great has to be great.
Yes, they were
didn't do that last year. They didn't
right?
show up last year when they were supposed to. But I will say this. Will Jordan Love restore the Packers' NFC North dominance? We got to remember, there's a team in Detroit now.
Talk to him.
There's a team in Chicago in about a year and a half that's going to also be better.
Right.
So I think it's more so of, let's see what Jordan Love is going to be able to be right now in 2023.
Right.
Then we can move forward.
Two things. Luke Musgrave at tight end, who they drafted this year out of
huge
Oregon
get.
State, I believe, is going to be a star for them. And I think we're going to see the offense be at its truest form. You know, as great as it was with Aaron, and Aaron won back-to-back MVPs, Aaron certainly wanted things to be his way, and it worked. I think you're going to see more of the movement stuff that we have seen from players like, I'm trying to think of a player in this offense that excelled at it Matthew Stafford years ago, or Ryan Tannehill years ago. And Jordan's got enough talent. So we're going to see more of the athletic movement on the perimeter that is going to be a big part of this offense that certainly was missing last year.
Are you buying into them in the way a lot of people are as a legitimate Super Bowl contender in the NFC?
I was at the 2022 NFL draft a year and a half ago. Okay, so if we're going to say the NFC is Philadelphia and San Francisco, absolutely fair. Why can't we sit here and say Detroit's the third best team? Why not? Where's the flaw of the football team? Their offensive line is going to be a top 3 unit in the NFL. They got a budding superstar in Amon-Ra St. Brown. They got a budding superstar in Aiden Hutchinson. A remade secondary that's got C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Sutton and Mosley. Brian Branch, they drafted out. Everyone's going to say, well, Jared Goff. That's the question mark? A guy that statistically in his career has thrown for like 150-plus touchdowns and like 60 picks. Look, and Dak Prescott's a good player. Not many people have these questions about Dak Prescott being a good to really good player. You guys tell me that Jared Goff is the biggest question mark of a football team that has got this is the best roster 30 years in Detroit. 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have any question marks about Jared Goff.
And there's a name that he did not mention that they drafted this year that I love.
Running back Jahmyr Gibbs, and I had an opportunity yesterday. His running backs coach at Georgia Tech, who's now the running backs coach at Texas, who also coached Bijan Robinson. I asked him to give me Tashard Choice. I said, give me 4 words to describe Jahmyr Gibbs.
4 words to describe Jahmyr Gibbs. Okay.
Yep. Now, probably more words.
No,
he said, solid assassin, cold-blooded, electrifying, humble beast, animal he is.
Well, that's a lot more than 4 words. You asked him for 4.
Maybe he's that good.
Just get the concept.
No, but
silent assassin.
That's already 2 words.
Cold-blooded.
That's 4 words. That's it. No, we got to stop. That's already 4 words.
Good enough.
No, but you know what? I'm not comfortable with the specificity or lack thereof. If I ask you for 4 words, you just gave me like 13 words. I was going to write them down.
Here's a question for you. Who would be the last Lion that you would describe in that way?
In what way?
Calvin Johnson.
Well,
he would be the last line you would describe in that capacity.
What capacity?
Electrifying.
I can't even follow all the words that he just said.
Electrifying.
Calvin Johnson,
assassin.
Barry Sanders. No, they haven't had anybody
Cold-blooded.
like that. Yeah.
Humble beast. Calvin Johnson is the person I can think of.
That would be the last guy.
Okay.
I'm not saying he's going to be Calvin Johnson, but we're talking about a football team that if we're comparing rosters in the NFC, probably Philadelphia and San Francisco and Dallas have better overall rosters. And then I absolutely could make the case that the Detroit Lions have the 4th best roster in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of teams. Look, surprises always come in the NFL, but there's a bunch of teams you see sort of jockeying for that. I think Seattle people may be sleeping on, and I think they could wind up being a lot better than people think. And then there's always someone you don't see coming that will wind up being better than.
Don't be surprised if the Lions are in the NFC title game.
Louis Riddick has been saying that. Louis Riddick has been saying that all offseason long. So let's do the same little drill that we just did with the AFC East. Give me the AFC North in order. 1, 2,
NFC
3,
North.
4, Danny.
Yep,
NFC North.
I'm going to say Detroit wins the division. Green Bay gets to 2nd. Chicago, I've got to give them credit with how they've rebuilt their roster. And I think Justin Fields takes off this year, 3rd. And then Minnesota, just because of the kind of the devoid of talent on their defensive side of the football, I'm going to put it 4th.
Vikings, didn't they win? What, they win 12 games last year?
Won a bunch of games,
won 11
really close
games.
I think their offense is going to be very good. Again, they need Addison to stay healthy, but I want to see how well the defense plays under Brian Flores.
Harry.
Yeah, I have the same order. I'm just flipping 3 and 4.
So Vikings 3.
At 3 and the Bears at 4.
And the Bears at 4.
Chicago 4, huh?
You also like the Lions. Yeah, I mean, I had a tough time. Look, I mean, we are just taking the Vikings out of everything.
But I agree with Dan. Like, offensively, we know what this team is capable of.
Which one? The Vikings?
The Vikings.
Yeah.
I want to see Brian Flores and how he's going to be able to change this defense, but I don't think he has all the personnel right now.
I agree.
I think they got to get more personnel pieces defensively to make a drastic change, more so than we've seen a season ago.
I wanted so bad, we could put my picks up there. I wanted so badly to pick the Packers to win the division because I've sort of been riding that bandwagon all the way, and I just couldn't quite get myself there to do it. So I have the Lions at 1, the Packers at 2, the Vikings at 3, a much improved Bears team at 4. Can this become the next great duo in the NFL, Pickett to Pickens?
I believe it's about to be, Greeny. And I think the reality for me is George Pickens is starting to become one of those receivers, and Harry knows this, that the coverage doesn't necessarily matter. I played with Andre Johnson and I played with Calvin Johnson, 2 guys that as a quarterback, you would sit there and go, well, usually I would never throw this ball to that person. But the coverage doesn't matter. As long as I give this guy a shot, something good is more than likely going to happen. And I think Kenny Pickett, and that's the fascinating part of this conversation for me is, does that now vault Kenny Pickett into a different player than maybe I certainly expected him to be because of that connection? Because he gets to the line of scrimmage, he's like, oh, I don't care what it is. George is getting this ball. Not only makes that connection better, but it also makes everybody else's job in Pittsburgh offensively easier. It's a connection that we have to start paying a little bit more attention to.
Yeah, and again, RC talked about it, and he was trending all day when he was making that comparison. So can the Steelers, a team that, for a team that might be has as big a national following as any team in the entire National Football League, they are really under the radar now. But with a first-round pick at quarterback, and with maybe a generational talent like Pickens at wide receiver, and T.J. Watt coming back to play on that defense when last seen he had 22.5 sacks. Are the Steelers about to just stun everybody and be way better than the world is giving them credit for?
Define stun for me, Greeny.
Definitely make the playoffs. Let's say, are the Steelers going to make the playoffs? I
wouldn't be surprised. It's going to be tough, but I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if the Steelers make the playoffs because their schedule is a little easier. I understand their division is tough, but we're talking about a guy, Mike Tomlin, since 2007, has not had a losing season.
Right.
What I love about this duo more than anything is that these 2 guys came in together.
Right.
Right? I was able to come in with my quarterback, Matt Ryan, in 2008, and our relationships was different with each other more so than it was other people. They get an opportunity to grow together. Mm-hmm. And I think this guy, George Pickens, is going to take more pressure off of wide receiver Deontay Johnson. So I think we're going to get a better Deontay Johnson because of George Pickens and that dog he is.
I don't see Pittsburgh as a playoff team. I don't think the offensive line is good enough. Now, their defense has 3 elite players. You mentioned Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward. I just don't know if the offensive line is good enough right now. Now, it's going to be a better and more improved unit. But again, that's why this is such an interesting conversation, because if George Pickens becomes Justin Jefferson, if George Pickens becomes Jamar Chase, then it becomes a more realistic conversation of, man, can the Pittsburgh Steelers actually somehow make noise in the North? I'm not there yet because of the offensive line, but we have to start respecting that duo.
But we can't forget about a guy also, Darnell Washington, that he drafted out of Georgia, a tight end. Now you have
And
two
Fryer
solid
Muse.
tight ends. Yeah, you got two
They're
of them
going to be a
now.
good team. I mean, the Steelers are going to be a lot
The
better. than
AFC
most
is
people
loaded.
think. Loaded. That's going to be their biggest problem. Okay. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.